you've seen it here in Michigan. Our next guest has been talking about this. Got an op-ed this morning talking about it. Welcome in. Garrett Soldano joins us right now to talk a little bit about it. He's running for governor. Says Gretchen's got to go. Appreciate you being here with us today. How are you, man?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much, obviously, for having me on.
You know, absolutely. We have been talking to folks who are running for governor here, and there's a big number. That's encouraging, not just for running for governor. I actually got to see Garrett speak this week, and one of the things that he mentioned, you talked about this, was whether it's running for governor, and people like you and your wife basically said I think you've got to run. She said you've got to get in this race, you've got to get involved. People who are not maybe likely to do that sort of thing involved at every level, including the school boards, running parents saying, I got a woman whose mom is she's started getting engaged with the school boards and talking to the parents, and she's decided as she's for a kid, hey, I'm going to run for county commissioner. But there are a lot of good people stepping up in a lot of different places, and that is encouraging news.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Justin, because I've been saying this for a while now. It's time for ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And so many times on the road, everybody always tends to point the finger at me and say, hey, Garrett, what are you going to do about the schools? And what are you going to do about election integrity? And I've been telling people, hey, look, when you're pointing the finger at me, there's three pointing right back at you. And so what are you going to do right now for the school boards? And what are you going to do in this next election to make sure that our election is integrous? And so it's time for people to get off the sidelines. It's time for people to get off the bleachers and join us on this field of battle right now, because we're seeing, especially now at the world level, what's going on. And we have to stand up, and we need ordinary people now to do extraordinary things and get involved.
Yeah, and we're seeing that, and thank goodness, because it is. Not only is it time, I would say, it's past time, but there are a lot of people that are getting involved. In fact, I think that's one of the pieces. I think maybe a good news most than anything else. You've written this op-ed today. Let's talk a little bit about this. Gretchen Whitmer's failed COVID response. For town hall, we've seen it. It's staggering to see. The CDC just announced, by the way, when it comes to speech with little kids, and I watch this closely because my little girl she's going to be 15 months here in March, but they have a certain set of how many words they're supposed to say by a certain date, and it used to be 50 for 24 months. The CDC just quietly moved it back to be 50 for 30 months. And the real secret, and I guess it's not a secret to folks like you and the folks like us, and parents have been watching this, is that these masks play a big role. You ask any speech therapists, they play a big role in that, just amongst other things. But we know that these things, these policies that could have been, look, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt up early, but you had time to adjust. And this whole time, as she likes to talk about the knob she's been working, but she's following the science and the data. It's political science and polling data. She never pulled back, and they've continued to double down. It's been pretty quiet lately. I said this earlier, riding with Biden when he was campaigning. Apparently now she's hiding with Biden. I don't know what's happening, but she had a chance to be a leader and be out there, take these things off, and she never did. And our kids have been hurting in the middle of it all.
Yeah, and the whole thing right now is she has Biden's credit card, and she's acting like a moderate Republican right now, in my humble opinion, that she's sharing all this money with all the businesses and the schools and the people she hammered down on. And she's acting like she rolled up her sleeves and it was her sound business decisions. It was her sound policies that are getting us out of it. And it's not. We were in a deficit, and now we have a surplus of money. And so she's spending it right now. But guess who's going to have to flip that bill? All of us. And if we don't start having some foresight, if we don't start having some foresight with how we're going to do business here in the future, we're going to be in trouble. And we are all feeling it right now with inflation and everything else. And I've said this from the very beginning, the catastrophic consequences of this governor and her decision-making is going to be a whole heck of a lot worse than this virus. And now it's proven to be true. And Justin, you're right. Holy cow, we've been saying this for over a year now about how catastrophic this is going to be for the young children masking up. And they have, and you're exactly right, a point in time where they have to learn and read physiology. And we were all, screaming from the rooftops about this, but we were told that we were racist, and we were told that we didn't care, and all this other hot garbage. And now we're going to see this in the scars that we're leaving on our children. is going to take decades to recover. And there's no amount of money that she can throw at this thing to solve that. And you're right too. Like, she had an opportunity. If November of 2020, if she just would have opened up slowly like the rest of the union was doing, I don't think anybody could have beat her. But she decided to double down, and she put our restaurants at 25% capacity. She canceled our children's experiences, their opportunities, their dreams, and now we're paying for it. And that's why I decided to run, because like all of you that are watching right now, I'm done with the silver spoon politicians. I'm done with these elitists with their rules and not following through with the rules. And so again, it's time for ordinary people to do extraordinary things.
Yeah, I heard you talk about it over the weekend, but in the op-ed too, you make some of these points. What can folks do to get ahead? Because I know you're hearing from people, election integrity and things like that. What can folks do to make sure that they're participating in this election in an appropriate way? Make sure that we're keeping an eye on things.
Yeah, we have to get involved. I mean, even we all won an integrous election, and the legislature actually did their job. And I think passed 19 or wrote up 19 bills to fix our election system, and Governor Whitmer vetoed every single one of them. So we have to make sure that we get in this next election cycle, and our elections will be fixed from here on out and doing common sense solutions with voter ID and everything else. So we have to make sure our elections are integrous. So I'm helping all these grassroots organizations in Michigan GOP to recruit licensed election inspectors, and we need 5,000 of them. And I think they've already recruited 1,000, but we need 5,000 people to learn how to be a licensed election inspector, to get involved, to make sure that we are making sure that this election is integrous. And so we have to have people get off the sidelines now and get off the bleachers, and not just be keyboard warriors and share their opinions on social media. We need action now. And I tell you what, we are going to continue to ignite and inspire Michigan's greatest asset. And that's all of you. That's the people, to make sure that we're doing inspiring change in the state of Michigan.
Yeah. One of the things, we're talking with Garrett Soldano right now, who's running for governor here in Michigan. Says Gretchen's got to go. He's written the op-ed in the town hall about it. You can go to townhall.com. We'll put links up in the, of course, on the website, justinbarclay.com, a little bit later on in the stack. It's Gretchen Whitmer's failed COVID response. That's the title of it. And, you talk about this. Matter of fact, I heard you mention this on Saturday, but you talk about it's okay to make a mistake as long as you admit it and you correct it. A lot of politicians just aren't. They're just not capable of doing that these days. What would you like to see from folks like Whitmer who just failed to make those mistakes, or failed to make those admit those mistakes and correct them amid course?
And we're all human, Justin. Those of free of sin, cast the first stone. We all have a past. We all have a history. But it's what you do today. Your history and your past does not define who you are. And we're all going to make mistakes. And that's the problem with these career politicians and these elitists, is they don't own up to their mistakes. And that's all we want now. We want to be told the truth. We want transparency, and we want somebody who's always going to follow through and do what's right. And I think that's not too much to ask of any public servant. And that's what I'm hoping to bring to the state of Michigan. And I firmly believe, when we win this thing, we are going to shock the state, and we're going to shock the country, even the world. And we're going to show people what can happen to a group of people when you've been thrown in a hole, you got dirt kicked in your face. What can happen with a group of people, we the people, what happens when you get leadership and the right leader in place, and when you have a goal and a vision. We're going to show everybody the power of we the people now. And it's time for everyone to get off the sidelines, to get involved.
Garrett Soldano's with us right now. He's running for governor as a Republican here against Gretchen Whitmer. And one of the points I heard you talk about this weekend, because I think it's, a lot of times people have heard you as you started. If you don't know, Garrett started a Facebook group back in 2020 that grew just astronomically. It shot up, fastest growing Facebook ever. It was Michiganders Against Excessive Quarantine. And Facebook eventually shut them down. But out of that movement grew Stand Up Michigan. And of course, now this run for governor. One of the things I thought was kind of interesting is to get to hear your take on certain subjects. We've heard a lot of COVID, and we've heard a lot of lockdowns and all those things. And but one of the things that I hadn't heard you quite talk about as much was part of the economy. and how tied to energy it was. Why is this important and specific right now? Well, we've got Biden shutting down pipelines. We've got a pipeline, Line 5 here in Michigan that we've got interest in. We see gas prices going through the roof with what's happening right now, Russia and Ukraine. We got the summer blend coming back in. Gas prices, as they stand now, are almost $1 more per gallon than they were a year ago at this time. Where are they going to go as this thing heats up? Who knows? But how much does energy play into the role of our economy? And where we've seen folks like Ford and others leave the state, I thought that was really interesting.
And that's what I'm hoping to bring to this state is some common sense. Can you even imagine if her 45-cent tax on gas would have went through, how much more people would be suffering right now? So again, it's time for some common sense solutions. And we were energy independent underneath President Trump. And now here we are with energy prices going up. That's taking money out of hardworking Michiganders. So it's time to have some foresight. And so what I'm going to bring to the table is some common sense to this, because we are losing businesses out of state because energy is so gosh darn expensive. And you can't tell me, Justin, you heard me talk about this on Saturday, that you're going to plug in our automobile fleet. And I don't even know how many cars that is, 100, 200 million by 2030 to 2050. And you really think when you plug in this automobile fleet that you're going to power this with solar and wind? There's no common sense to that. They can complement, but they're not energy dense solutions. And the only thing on the table right now is nuclear and gas. Until some kind of technology gets developed, like nuclear fusion and harnessing the power of the sun, which they're doing right now, but that's probably decades away. So we have to have some foresight, and we can do this in the state of Michigan. If we start investing into the energy infrastructure, we're going to make energy cheap again, and we're going to be energy independent in the state of Michigan. And we can build something so special that we can start selling our energy to the Democrat-ran states like Illinois, because it's a trickle effect, right? It's a ripple effect what can happen. Because we need businesses back here, and we need small businesses, big businesses. We need to start a business revolution, and we need to inspire people to come back to the state of Michigan. And it starts with our Constitution. Then it goes into truth and transparency. Then we have to start bringing some common sense solutions with energy so we can attract people to come back here, which is going to increase tax revenue. Because I guarantee you this, we are going to inherit a hot mess in the state of Michigan. And Biden's credit card is going to be due. So if we don't have some foresight and some entrepreneur spirit to deal with what's coming, we're going to be in a world of hurt.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the energy issue is going to come home to roost at some point. And all this, the electric cars, I've talked to folks who know. I mean, you don't have to look far, folks. I mean, we just had, was a year or so back, we had issues where they're telling us, turn your thermostat down. Remember when we all went through that? They said, turn your thermostat down. Well, the same thing happened in Texas, a place where they were energy sufficient on their own for quite some time. That happened last year, and people died. So these are issues. What happens when people start plugging their cars in, I think, is a whole nother piece of this puzzle. Garrett, a lot of people want to know. I'm going to ask you this before we let you go. We just seen it in Canada. They're starting to seize bank accounts. They're talking about this social credit system that they have in China and beyond. One of the things that people are concerned with is these ESG scores. Glenn Beck's talked a lot about it in the book that he's written about the Great Reset. I don't know how much you followed, but ESG is environmental, social, and governance. That's what they will grade certain companies and then ultimately individuals on. It's a way of being able to control people. And one of the ways, you won't be able to get a loan unless you're a business or a company, unless you meet certain criteria. And eventually, maybe even a private citizen, you won't be able to get a loan for a certain thing, or maybe even be able to get money or spend money or have a job unless you act or do it. So we see a lot of big tech censorship now. You won't even have to see that in the future, because you'll censor yourself so that you're able to continue to do business. There is a big movement, and Glenn's pushing this now, talk a lot about that, at the state level to do away, make it illegal to have these ESG scores. I've talked with folks about this. We're going to have Congressman Heising talk about it again on the federal level. He's looking at this really closely and talking about what he thinks might need to happen here. But what can we do at a state level to address that in Michigan to make sure that we don't see any of this garbage really handicap us when we do need to have this economic comeback?
Hey, Justin, you're right. And here's what we need to do. It's no longer holding the line, folks. We're not holding anything. We're on the offensive now. And that's what we're going to bring to the table is we need to constantly take action every single day and take back lost ground. because look what's happening in Canada right now. And that's coming here shortly, because what these world power elitists are doing right now is they're trying to take down our country. And hey, look, they're not even firing a shot. And they're starting to realize you don't need one boot on the ground. You don't need aircraft carriers. You don't need planes. You don't need weapons. You know how you tear a country apart? You do it from within, and you do it with division. And that's why they continue to push this division and infighting with all of us. So it's time for the people now to stand up and unite. And that's what we're going to bring to the table. We need to get away from this fringe left and fringe right and all this infighting. And we have to start having conversation again. Difficult conversations from a variety of different people, from a variety of different backgrounds, so we can come together as a people to move not only our state forward, but take back our country in 2024. This is it, folks. And you have to understand this. We are a stone throw away from losing this republic. So if you're not getting involved right now, and if you're not getting involved at the local level and taking back lost ground, you're not going to have anything to stand up for here in the future. That's where we're at. And so you must get involved. You must get involved with our campaign. You must get involved with election integrity. You must get involved at your local level with your school board, your city council, your city commission. You no longer get to stay inside and hope that somebody else will do it and hope that some other elected official. Because I tell you what, right now, if I truly believe that every other viable candidate could get the job done, it was going to represent all of us and do what's right, I wouldn't be running. But that didn't happen. Because from the very beginning, we were all waiting for somebody to stand up for all of us, and nobody was. And so it's now time for ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And I tell you what, if we unite and we will blaze a trail together so wide, so big, so full of hope and inspiration that everybody that doubted us, hated us, attacked us, they're going to have to humbly follow. And that will create a ripple effect throughout our country when we take back 2024.
Garrett Saldana running for governor here in Michigan. GarrettForMichigan.com, and the town hall piece I'll put up on our website too. If you just search for that, you can find it in town hall. But the title is Gretchen Whitmer's failed COVID response. Garrett, thanks so much for being here with us today. Appreciate you, my friend.
Justin, thank you so much. God bless you. God bless the state of Michigan, and God bless these United States.